Alright, so I got this fucking douchebag friend. Alright, he's a flat earther, okay? A fucking retard. He's like, there's no such thing as gravity. And I was like, dude, gravity exists. When you were little, you got dropped on your fucking head, and now you're retarded because of gravity. If there wasn't gravity, you might have got dropped on your head, but you would have been okay. All right? Gravity. And he's like, fuck you. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Look up, do some research on how gravity came to be. The experiments. What was the first experiment that dealt with gravity? It's so fucking retarded. And okay, so long story short, here I am doing a little research. He told me to look at something called the Cavendish Experiment. Okay? I never heard of this motherfucking thing before. Cavendish Experiment. Whatever, okay? So I'm on Wikipedia, looking at the Cavendish Experiment, just to fucking shut his ass up. Cavendish Experiment, performed in 1797 to 1798 by British scientist Henry Cavendish, was the first experiment to measure the force of gravity between masses in the laboratory, and the first to yield accurate values for the gravitational constant. Because of the unit conventions then in use, the gravitational constant does not appear explicitly in Cavendish's work. Instead, the result was originally expressed as the specific gravity of the Earth, or equivalently the mass of the Earth. This guy, from his shed, this is how fucking awesome this guy is, in the 1700s, okay, in a shed, this guy weighed the Earth in a shed in the 1700s. That's the story. And they're sticking to it. That's the, okay, this is the story. Okay, this is the first experiment. His experiment gave the first accurate values for these geophysical constants. The experiment was devised sometime before 1783. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's get to it. The guy in a shed with 2 lead balls weighed the Earth and came up with the first accurate value for big G. It wasn't until, that's their story, 100 years later when they got a little bit more accurate. This is within 1%. Okay? 1700s, rich guy with a shed weighed the Earth. Okay? Cavendish Experiment. Here we go.
At the back of it, he had a big garden shed, which might seem like the size of my house. And in it, he had 2 lead balls, like this, suspended from the ceiling. Only this is not to scale. This is, lead balls. Now,
huge lead balls.
He wanted to measure the attraction between 2 objects due to gravity. In other words, there's a gravitational attraction between you and me, or between me and this lead ball. So he had to be a long way away to look at the experiment, otherwise he'd interfere with it. So he had an aperture, a place where he looked through, and he put a telescope up there, and he stood outside in all weathers, and he was in his 60s doing this, staring through the window to take his measurements over a year. There's another set of lead balls inside there. This experiment really is very difficult to get to work, and a technician has sawed it apart, so because he got so frustrated.
He sawed it
and then right
off?
in the middle there's a bit of glass there's a mirror which should be suspended from a torsion wire. So you'd set it up like this in his ship.
He sawed it off because it didn't work.
And you put it like that, and this lead ball would attract that lead ball, and this lead ball would attract this one. And so it would be pushed a little bit this way and twist the wire, and that would be pushed a little bit that way. And the wire would twist, and as the wire twists, the mirror, which is dangling in there, would twist it a little bit, and light which comes in would be reflected off at a slightly different angle. And all he had to do was measure the angle. He then had to move it the other way around. Now, he didn't move this bit, he moved the lead balls round so that you had an equal and opposite effect on the other side. So instead of having, you'd have that configuration. He had this is a very complicated technical thing for the time. 18th century we're talking about, and he put that way round, and then it was pushed the other way, and you could then see the displacement. Moreover, you could measure the period of oscillation of this, and from that get all the properties of the wire, the torsional constant. And that enabled him to measure big G, the gravitational constant, to an accuracy of 1%. And nobody improved on that for 100 years. He didn't describe it as that. He described it as though he was weighing the Earth. He was calculating the mass of the Earth, so that when you're attracted to the Earth through gravity, it's the product of the mass of the Earth, this big gravitational constant, divided by r squared, the radius of the Earth squared, which we normally know as acceleration due to gravity.
Okay. Okay, wait. So this guy, all right, now it's, all right. I started out thinking that this guy, and I did a little more than this video. I've watched it, did a little more research, okay? And I started out thinking that this badass motherfucker, 1700s, in a shed, super rich dude, cool fucking story, this guy's the shit, came up with gravity, measured the weight of the Earth in the 1700s in a shed, and now I don't think I believe that story. It sounds like bullshit. Dude in a shed, 1700s, weighed the Earth. Cavendish Experiment. Cavendish Experiment. I mean, all these science places now, they're, to detect the motion of Earth, you have these huge fucking pendulum experiments, things, huge pendulum set up, and that's supposed to demonstrate that the Earth is spinning, right? So for gravity, and I'll put that clip in here, put the clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, I don't know what the fuck gravity is. We can't just, we can't observe it, but we can explain the effects of it, or whatever the fuck he was talking about. Cavendish Experiment. Science, okay? Don't you even science? Science, experiments, repeatable, demonstratable, measurable. It should be able to accurately measure it and repeat the experiment. But the story is, this guy in the 1700s came up with this shit, with this experiment in his shed, and apparently he's the only fucking guy that can do it. It's like the fucking pyramids, where we can't fucking build the shit still today. You can't repeat this fucking experiment. Where's all these fucking Cavendish experiments? The guy sawed that fucking thing in half because he was pissed off he couldn't get it to work. It doesn't work. Saying gravity is not shit falls, I can process that. Shit falls, helium fucking rises, okay. That's not gravity. Gravity, is what they're saying, is an attraction. Everything's got gravity. I've got gravity. This fucking trackball's got gravity. Everything is attracted. The heavier it is, the denser it is, the more mass it has. It attracts things to it. That's supposed to be gravity. It doesn't work. You can't demonstrate it. This guy supposedly did in the 1700s in his fucking shed in the 1700s. We can't fucking reproduce it today. Can't do it. Let's go to the fucking Museum of Science and Industry or whatever, and let's go find us a Cavendish experiment. Let's go to fucking whatever university and let's see them fucking demonstrate their fucking working model of the fucking Cavendish experiment. So, from my Globehead perspective, I guess it's not proof that it's not based on this experiment that seems now, I believe this story is bullshit, but it doesn't prove that the Earth is a ball or that it's flat. But that's some straight up bullshit, man. Like a guy in a shed in 1700s doing this, and they're still teaching people this fucking story, fairy tale thing, whatever the fuck it is. What the fuck? Turn off, you fucking thing.